Reconnected. Hello, everyone. I believe I'm on the air alone, so I'm going to add in Carmel and Bob Wright. Just one moment. We're having a little bit of quality connections at the beginning, so we just, before the show started, decided to have me host the channel. So just give me a moment while I bring my friends in. Bob, are you there?
I'm here.
All right. Well, we're live then.
Hello.
Perfect.
Okay. We're on the air. I will check with the chat room just to make sure. Yeah.
Yes, sounds great.
Okay, great. Well, Bob, do you want to open up for us now officially?
Yes, welcome everyone. Hopefully I am here for the whole show. We got new internet installed in the house, which hopefully is going to give us better connection than we've had in the past. I'm here with Julien and Carmel, which you've already heard. Hi, guys.
Oh, hi. Hi, everyone.
And it is Saturday the 15th of February where I am in my part of the world.
And in the United States.
Yes. And Julien and Justin arrived yesterday. Was it yesterday or the day before? Day before yesterday. So, and they're here with us now, but it looks like they're packing up to leave. We were trying to sleep. And things here have been so energetic. So everybody is extremely excited about what's the prospects, the possibilities that we have in front of us. It's a tremendous opportunity that's unfolding. We don't know how it's going to unfold quite just yet, but it's definitely unfolding.
However it is.
Yes. We have we've got this whole village which is nestled right in this valley, and it goes right out to the beach, and it's beautiful. It's the area is so green. It's really amazing, and the potential there. I've never seen. First off, we've never seen Heather so excited before, ever. I mean, she's just she's really putting a lot of energy towards making this happen, and everything just seems to be falling in place. So we've got more people arriving next week as well from Norway. So the call has been out and things are happening.
Very nice. Well,
and I hear in the United States a big portion of it's gotten dumped with a hell of a lot of snow. I was talking to some of my friends back at home, and they're like, "We got 25 inches of snow in the last 3 days." I was like, "What?"
Yeah, the East Coast got a lot of snow. Last weekend, Portland had got a lot of snow, or just before last weekend, Portland had gotten dumped. And I guess it's kind of intense all around.
So, I'm glad I'm not there.
Okay.
I'm not there. Not that snow isn't beautiful.
No.
I mean, it's just 25 inches of it is a little much.
Well, look, you guys, I need about 15 minutes, so I'm going to mute myself, and I'll be back in about 15.
Okay.
All right. See you soon, guys.
How are you doing, Carmel?
I'm doing very well, Bob. Thanks for asking.
Are you in that snow belt as well?
Oh, yeah, it's snowing right now. It's snowing, but my synchronicity has kept me, on the easy side of this, so I'm really kind of okay with it. It's really beautiful. So, but I don't have to get up in it and commute in it every day or anything like that. Then I would probably have a different attitude. I wouldn't be in gratitude if I had to schlep through it every day like that. But I don't think it's normal to have to drag your ass through, these kinds of storms. I think they were created so we could hibernate for a little while.
I'm still glad that I'm not there. I'm very, very grateful for being here in Morocco, and it's been exceptionally warm the last couple of days. So hopefully the weather is starting to change here. So it was nice. We went to the beach today. Got a little sun. It was nice. I did a bunch of walking. Brian sitting in front of me doing a bunch of push-ups. I am outing you on the radio.
But he's an exhibitionist, so it's okay. Tell him
I wanted to talk about some of the conversations that we've been having here dealing with unconditional love. And what exactly does that look like, in dealing with people? In everyday life, how do you live unconditionally? And that has been a challenge, especially with the dynamic of the group changing here, quite frequently on a regular basis. People are leaving, new people are coming, the group dynamic keeps changing. And you're always going to have those personalities that mesh really, really well together and others that don't. And how do you live unconditionally? What does unconditional love do in situations like that? And how do you attain unconditional love? Brian kind of stirred the pot. Was it 3 days ago? He put a post up on Facebook with a quote from the book that he was reading on polyamory, and the debate that ensued was really indicative. I mean, it really shows that a lot of people are struggling with certain ideas and concepts. Some came right out and just said that he was wrong and all he's looking to do is for free sex. But what is unconditional love, really? And what I've come to the conclusion myself, it's loving without attachment. It is loving without judgment. To me, the universe itself is an expression of unconditional love simply because the universe allows everything. It says no to nothing. It allows it all. And it doesn't, that ability to allow people to to be as they choose without judgment is a hard space for a lot of people to get into.
Yeah, but they're doing it. I mean, they're learning. The only way to test the theory is to go out and test the theory, you know. And when you're testing the theory and you're publicly announcing, you know, you're broadcasting your intentions out there, you're doing it for feedback. You're doing it for feedback. So, you know, not having any expectations about feedback for the things that really are, that you're drawn to, that your inspiration is allowing in your life. Also making some space for dealing with questions and tests about how you really are feeling. You know, when I'm feeling really secure about something, people don't really question me about it. When I'm feeling insecure about something, oh my God, it's like the big fat sore thumb that somebody keeps touching, you know. So, you know, kind of until, you know, what is, you know, polyamory, you know, in the sense that I've been watching, you know, a lot of these conversations. It's not shocking to me. It's not unheard of. I don't really care as long as you're not messing with somebody who can't take care of and defend themselves, or who is an innocent. You know, then I have an opinion, a strong one. But up until then, I don't really care who you fuck. But I don't think polyamory is being very clear when these people are writing these books about people have.
You see, that's the whole thing. For me, polyamory is not about fucking.
Right. It shouldn't. It shouldn't be. I'm sure it's not everybody there, but I don't believe that's what the real intention is. Polyamory. It didn't say, you know, polysex. It didn't. It's, you know, there are different words. There are other.
Well, the key word is amory or amour, which is love.
Love, right. It's love.
You know, the ability to love many people.
To love
and everybody,
people. To love many people.
Everybody has that ability, you know. A lot of times, you know, when people get into, and this is just my own opinion, you know, and I know that it's not true for everyone, and whatever your truth is fine. But for me, I've always never felt comfortable with the idea of being in an exclusive relationship. Just to me, it was a sense of, well, you're telling me that I'm not allowed to fall in love with anyone else but you, and that could be fine for some people. But for me, that just is way too limiting. Because a lot of times I feel that I really don't have a choice in who I fall in love with. You know, falling in love a lot of times it just happens. You know, and sometimes instantly, as I have discovered. You know, within moments, two souls can recognize each other or a connection. And, you know, in my case with Alex, I felt eons of experience, you know, all coming at me at once, you know, because it's I don't really think that it's possible to have that strong of connection in one lifetime, you know, especially if you've only known the person for 10 minutes. But people have experienced that. I've experienced that. And when something like that happens and you're in a quote-unquote committed exclusive relationship, then it precludes you from, you know, maybe engaging in one of the most profound, you know, experiences that your soul had, you know. And for me, you know, I think the key in a situation like that is absolute transparency. Absolute honesty, absolute transparency, and communicating that transparency to everyone who you know, intend to be involved with in any way like that.
Well, I think that, you know, agreed, everybody's entitled to pursue their preferences. And if they're speaking their truth from the beginning, and I'm talking about relationships that have been fused commingled because of fascinations, because of repetitive self-beliefs, etc. Okay? So we're not just talking about, oh, I found somebody and this is working out really well and you've got some sort of, energetic hum going, but not a lot of relationships who are viewing this new expansion are necessarily coming from that point of freedom. There are still belief systems that people are breaking through. And I think our compassion, if you're going to put your face out there and have those conversations, be willing to stick it out with gentility and with elegance and finish the conversation and not be offended that somebody has held up a mirror and has reflected something back to you that they need to discuss. You have every right to walk away from the conversation and go, no, and I don't want to talk about it. Okay. And that people have every right to do that when they're putting up posts and they're writing blogs. This is just how I'm feeling, and I don't really care about anybody else's response, so they take off the comments, right? They don't allow comments. But if you're allowing comments, like if you're up on Facebook and these things come up, there's still something within you, if you're attracting it to you, that you are continuing to question regarding the issue. It's really interesting. I've been noticing this in my own process. When I get a little niggled or when somebody's holding something up that's like in contrast to what I think I'm saying or what I think I'm feeling or what I think I'm wanting, I realize, and I do have to admit that deep down underneath there's something that I need to finish the conversation within myself all the way. So we throw a lot of judgment around when we are not in the situation ourselves. Or we have been behaving according to other paradigm, other dimensional type of social rules, which we know are personal rules. They're internalized. We create the reality. So, I think that yes, being patient with people who are going, well, I don't really like that. I think that's creepy. I think you just want to have your cake and eat it too, and blah blah blah. And there's nothing wrong as long as that's what you're stating. I'm wanting to have my cake and eat it too, if it's about sex. But a lot of polyamory is focusing around sex, and that's, and I think that in itself is the indicator. Yeah.
Well, I mean, when I talk about Alex, and I love him dearly. We're probably two of the most unlikely people to be in any kind of loving relationship the way that we are. We're not the same age. We're not the same race. We're not the same. We live on different continents. We're not the same sexual orientation. But yet, there is a very complete love that we have for each other. And, that this experience has shown me that, love really has no boundaries. We establish boundaries for ourselves because a lot of times, that whole energy of love is too powerful for us to handle emotionally or whatever. We set boundaries for ourselves, but love in of itself has no boundaries.
Well, I think that, as a mother, you're preaching to the choir regarding where love is, has no boundaries. Oh,
God. Well.
And no, it's the same thing. Translating that into other relationships that are not of progeny, it can be challenging sometimes. But we fortunately, who have assisted other humans to come in and have made those agreements, as parents and children, are looking at those relationships with a different lens now. I think that's why polyamory is really coming up, because the newer generation, the freer generation of children that are coming up now are going, no, I love lots of people and I love to do lots of things and nobody's going to stop me anymore.
Well, statistically, when you look at the real numbers, 60% of males admittedly cheat. 51% of women, or 45% of women admittedly cheat. what is that really saying about the paradigm that a lot of people find themselves, trapped in it? In a lot of ways, we've become a society of hypocrites.
Technically, yes, hypocrites, but really it's more along the lines of confused, and we know why. We know what the process was that got us to where we are now, and in the choir. I'm not disagreeing with you, but I am enhancing that and saying, yeah, well, we know where those unnatural perversions of social behavior and mores and norm came from. And those are in the process of being released at this time. So, speaking about polyamory out loud is an awesome thing to do. Just, don't think that in this early stage of these new concepts that people aren't going to hip and pop about it, because it's going to take a while for them to get used to this.
Brian's just handed me the quote that he had posted. It says, "Sex is a sacrament, not a prison. While monogamy can be a beautiful, even sacred bond, it might not be the agreement that best suits everyone. Our thinking that monogamy is inherently a nobler arrangement than any other has created a nation of hypocrites, which is what we've become. Choosing the new paradigm means giving up attachment to having your relationship adhere to a particular picture you may have had of how it's supposed to be. You must be prepared to let the right form emerge from the truth of your beingness. When a critical mass of polyamorous people have come out of the outmoded paradigm of sexual love as a scarce and jealously guarded resource will shift, a new paradigm will emerge in which sexual love is an abundant and renewable gift of grace."
Beautiful. That was really nice.
Yeah, I thought it was really nice, but
yeah, it's really nice.
It seemed to ruffle some feathers.
Well, that's life in the contrast. And as you say, oh, fuck them if they can't take a joke, No, I know, but it's you speak your truth and you let it flow, and and you live your life and you lead by example, and if we get lucky enough to be able to maintain that kind of focus to do that, it really the rest will follow. The rest will follow, and because the rest of them are you. That's the other thing. That's again going back to that. Well, when we have these kinds of where we're pointing out, oh, somebody's disagreeing with me, or somebody doesn't believe in that, or I believe somebody is behind me. We are kind of one. We're all doing this at the same time. Those people who have that, and I like that the French like to say puritanical hypocrites. Yes, that's what the Americans are, puritanical hypocrites. So there's no denying that, especially when we, well, Bob, you're a living example of coming out of the Bible Belt, where these kinds of closets were created for control. And so now that those closet doors are all open, all kinds of what used to be taboo, I think there's flow. I mean,
if we're talking about hypocrisy, boy, religion would be rife with it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, absolutely rife with it.
Mm-hmm.
It's
and Mel,
a lot of.
I'm seeing evidence of the social platforms upholding untruths about many religious sects, not just Christianity, not just Catholicism, not all across the board. The players, the players are being exposed for exactly what they have been proposing as a belief system, and I look at those little headlines and I go, one more, and I don't have to be the foot soldier in there fighting that war. I can't be on, in everybody's reality on, across the planet to try to fix it all for everybody else. I have to just have the faith that it's flowing along perfectly. So I get really excited when I see little side headlines, of these little these little growth spurts, these little tendrils of healing and balance. I think that it's going to come along just fine, and I'm really proud of the people who are able to write those kinds of letters like Brian wrote, and put them out there with all confidence,
Right. If there's we've been using a word, compersion, and Brian just handed me, what the definition of that is.
Is he just not going to join the conversation? He's going to be handing you notes.
he can hear everything, but I got the headset on, so if he talks loud enough, you probably hear him. Compersion is an empathetic state of happiness and joy, experienced when another individual experiences happiness and joy. It is sometimes identified with parents' pride in their children's accomplishments or one's own excitement for friends and others' successes. It is commonly used to describe when a person experiences positive feelings when a lover is enjoying another relationship. It is an opposite of jealousy. And how much better would it be if we could experience that rather than the possessive, jealous whole scenario that so many people go through?
Interesting that I heard Elvis Costello had a interview show. Oh, I saw it on Netflix. What's the name of that show? If you go to Netflix and you Google Elvis Costello show. Anyway, he was interviewing the police, and he got to the point where the guys and Sting and Elvis Costello were having a conversation about relationship and how a lot of the music was inspired from some of the their growth spurts and their relationships, etc. And they talked about those relationships that were built on big, wet, sticky tentacles of obligation and expectation. And all of them at that age, of course they had a lot of freedom too. They had a lot of opportunity to sample the subject, And so they all agreed that I let one of the songs they sang, ooh, 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 I'll be watching you. This was the song that they were having a conversation about. I'll be watching you, and it was like, and they all agreed. This is a song of stalking and obsession and control, and it's not about love.
Where were you? Who were you talking to? Who are those people? Why are you so late? How come?
Mm-hmm. Don't agree to see. Now, this is the whole thing with the OPPT. It's like, now that you know that you have the choice to make agreements or not make agreements, to make contracts or not make contracts, based on your focus, your energy, and your belief system. We get to question now all contracts. That is why polyamory, that is why this issue is blossoming. And I really look at it as a blossom on a flower.
It is.
So, and again, let's talk, and I also watched a film about a May-December relationship, and it was reversed, where the female was the elder, and it's like, oh my God, you put, it's the judgment, etc., because it's a feminine entity who has taken the lead in a relation and a mutual.
I'm not familiar. Say that again. What was that?
Where did I leave you off?
No, you were talking about. You mentioned something about. I didn't catch the name.
Oh, a May-December relationship.
May-December.
Yeah, a May-December relationship is a 50 or 60-year-old woman with a 30-year-old man. They call them.
Oh, okay. I got lost on the. Okay, all right.
But if a man is doing this, it's acceptable. But if a woman is doing this, they give her the derogatory name and image of cougar, like there's prey. But they don't look at it, for a masculine perspective on that. Well, that's just what we do.
Well, that's one of the big concepts
that's what
that we see here.
Do. What'd you say?
That's one of the big things that we had to deal with here, living in Morocco. there's certain things that, quote unquote, men are allowed to do or can do that women just should never do. And smoking in public is one of them. You know, all of us here, we all smoke. And so, you know, we're sitting in the cafe, you know, and Lisa's lighting up a cigarette, and some of the looks, you know, because people are, you know, well, you know, you're a girl and you shouldn't behave, or you should behave a certain way. Those are things that, you know, people are going to have to look at, because a lot of the social and cultural traditional things that we do really, you know, smack Mother Nature in the face. You know, they're insulting, and a lot of times, you know, because we see women, you know, they have to sneak behind, you know, buildings to smoke a cigarette, or they'll hide in the bathroom in the stall so that they can smoke a cigarette. And I just think that all of that is something that is going away very, very quickly. You know, it's very limiting, you know, and it smacks of that whole male-dominated, you know, old paradigm that we're leaving. You know, there's got to be balance. You know, we talk about neutrality. In a neutral relationship, neither the man or the woman has more or less power than the other. It is a sharing. It's not a giving and a taking, and there's a big difference between a sharing and a giving and a taking. You know, most of the relationships are based on give and take. You know, I'll do this if you do that, and blah, blah, blah. You know, unconditional love is more about a sharing of who you are. You know, we're dealing with ideas that we're assuming that people have taken responsibility for their own happiness. You know, assuming that a person has taken responsibility for their own creation, then there is no need in that person to fulfill that person. That person is perfectly fine in or out of a relationship. And when there's no need, you know, then there's no need to take anything. You know, you're not looking for something, so you're only just looking to share that which you have or that which you are.
Well, yes, you know, on a good day, but there are people out. I'm not disagreeing with you, but you know, we're needing to. I think we're in this conversation needing to remember that there are people on an evolutionary wave who are still right now and right now looking at their attachments, their behaviors, and their relationships that are completely codependent, completely abusive. I mean, you know, this wave is swelling for sure.
Well, I have an example in front of me every day. Jorge, who is one of the people who hosted us over in Norway when we went to the Norway conference. Jorge and his wife, Julia, they have a 4-year-old son together, Pascal. And Jorge and Julia live in the apartment downstairs with Julia's boyfriend, Christian. And Julia and Jorge recognize each other that they are best friends, and they love to see each other love. You know, they're experiencing that word that we're talking about, compersion. And a lot of people would look at that, well, how can that possibly work? And like I said, when you have souls that have taken full responsibility, and there's no need, and there's no none of those boundaries are, you know, they're operating completely transparently.
Right.
You know,
it has to be a clear contract and mutual participants. And mutual participants. That's good. It's good. A lot of people get married, and you're right. There's lots of cables and ties. You know, the ties that bind and the binds that tie. You know, in relationships. So it's a matter of maturity for a lot of folks, I see. But I'm just very pleased to see the younger crowd taking it. You know, this is like the '60s all over again. Come on, baby, love the one you're with, you know, and taking it to that a much more respectful level. I believe it's much more respectful level. You know, before it was just kind of pushing the envelope and testing the envelope, but now it's about actually getting in there and working with it and seeing how we really feel about it and how we really like it. So, yeah, it's all good. Yeah.
I agree, and it's not. You know what? Honestly, it's not just the young ones, you know. Jorge's, you're still young. Jorge's looking at me. He's like, I'm 40. Yes.
Yeah. There are exceptions. There are the lighted ones who've been, you know, here working on the swies with you, you know, that kind of stuff. So, you know, there are people who have been ahead of the curve for sure. But if you're looking at the swell of the wave and you're talking about...
Well, I'm older than Jorge, so...
Yeah, the swell of the wave is coming. It you know, it's right there because, first of all, we want it. That's the first of all. I want it. So it has to happen. It's done. You know?
Being young is a state of mind.
I'm very omnipotent today, and I'm liking it.
You know, we had a 55-year-old teenager on the tour with us the whole while. His name is Jim McPhee. Hey, Jim, if you're listening, that's how I look at Jim. He's the 55-year-old teenager. We'll give him 20. He's like a 55-year-old college student, and I mean that in the highest regard. He's just never let his inner child die. So same with Jorge. You are a child, Brian.
My cousin.
Yeah, he got somebody who was it you that thought when he first heard Brian on the air, Jorge thought Brian was 17. All Julian's typing. Or is he?
I don't know. I'm not looking there. Want me to look there for you?
Oh, there we go. Hey guys. So he's a little busy at the moment. It's Crystal.
With the hands up, you know if you're ready to take them, and I'll unmute them for you. What do you want to do, Bob? Want to take the call?
Yeah, let's take the call.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead and let him in, Crystal.
Area code 606.
Hey guys. It's Sheri.
Hi, Sheri.
Sheri.
Hi, darlings. I wanted to pop in real quick because I do have a little polyamorous kind of update. So I had announced over air some time ago that I am going through a divorce, and that's a big reason why I headed back here to Kentucky when I did. But it was really, really so stinking cool because when I got here, you know, Cheyenne was at work, and then he came back, and that night we just sat down, and he finally opened up a couple of hours of things that he had been going through. And it got us to a point that, kind of like what you said about Jorge and Julia, that at the core of everything, no matter how frustrating it's been or heartbreaking it's been for either of us, we cannot deny the fact that we recognize each other as absolute best friends. And the other night, it was really cool because he started talking to me about this girl that he's been talking to, and she's kind of in a relationship she's not sure she wants to continue, and he was kind of bouncing back and forth about it and really is really interested in her. So I volunteered to talk to her. because she was a little bit nervous that I had come back into town for a little bit. And so I got to get on Facebook. She was totally up to talking to me. And so I just gave her this whole long list of things. I was like, I am so supportive of you and Cheyenne if you want to adventure into whatever kind of romantic or not romantic relationships you want to get into. Don't be nervous that I'm here. And you have all my blessings and support as much as I can give. Both of you and I all deserve to be happy. So don't be nervous that I'm here. And I got the best response. And she was like, that is such a sigh of relief. You're awesome and all of this. And I was like, this is the best polyamory in action right now, because I'm talking to a girl that now my ex-husband is interested in, and I'm giving her my blessings. And it felt so exciting to do it. Like it was full of compersion just to have that conversation with her.
Very good. Good strength.
It was so super cool, yes. So just thought I would give that example and say hi and hear Bob's voice. And you can't see me, but I'm waving at everybody, whoever's listening and whoever's at the house. I'm waving and I'm hugging.
Hugs back.
All right, well, I do need to get out of here because I've got some things I gotta keep going. I've got a laundry list of things I gotta do in a pretty short amount of time. But I heard the word polyamory and wanted to jump in and give you my little update.
Thanks, Sheri.
Thanks, Carmela. See you guys later.
Where'd the boys go? Hello?
I'm sitting here talking with my mute button on. I'm sorry. I'm still here though, and I'm like, thank you for calling, Sheri. I'm sorry, Sheri, you didn't hear that because I was muted. I was like, thank you, and we missed you, and we were, and I was muted the whole time. Well, you got the. She's still on, so she heard me. Her mic is muted, but she still heard me. I hope she did. Anyway.
Well, so what else is going on?
What else is going on? Well, energetically, I think everybody is a bit crazy. A little. Lisa, you can't even talk to her. Lisa's completely unintelligible. The fact that she speaks Australian all the time. Now she's coming out. I hear her coming out the door. It's been. I don't know if any of you got to listen to the collective was it the collective imagination last week? A lot of things were, we had one of the callers calling in, DeerWomon, and she confirmed a lot of what, we've been experiencing here. Now, she was telling about how she had been trying to connect with us to teleport via a rainbow bridge that she connects to because she didn't know where we are. She goes, I just want to connect a rainbow bridge to their door. Well, there's been 3 rainbows right outside of our door, on 3 separate occasions in the exact same spot, right? And these rainbows were not normal rainbows. Normally, like a rainbow will last 10, 15 minutes and it'll fade away. These rainbows were there for a solid hour. It just never faded, just there. And things like that, connecting a lot of the dots and understanding and seeing how everything is, oh goodness, how we are really, really changing reality. And it got to the point where we were talking about some of what the things that we've been experiencing here, as far as telepathy, which has been a really big, a big thing. People passing out, spontaneously just passing out in the middle like of just sitting there, like literally just leaving their bodies and then having no memory of what just took place. A lot of these ideas and concepts that we're all sharing, as we were talking about, a lot of people say, well, I feel like I'm being left behind because this isn't my experience. The reason why we're sharing these things is because these things are what everyone can experience. It's not outside of the realm of possibility. You know, so much, you know, I think back now, a year ago, when we had just really started to, you know, to work with the One People show, and all of this was just unfolding. And the person that I was then, you know, and I've looked back at just about everything, every aspect of my life, from the current position that I am now, and what I find is that I'm completely not the same person, and that this transformation is happening with everyone. And, you know, regardless of whether your experience is coincidental with someone else's experience, all you really need to do is just look back 1 year. Are you the same person you were then? And if you, and almost invariably, everyone's going to say no. You know, so much is different, so much has changed, and my perception has changed so much. Well, as long as that's the case, then you are in the midst of transformation. You are in the midst of moving into a new reality, because that's what transformation is all about. So I think what we're experiencing here is an accelerated transformation. And it's accelerated in such a way that we're really beginning to be able to see the connections between thoughts and what happens next. And getting that purview is really helping, you know, in perfecting, you know, really getting to the nuts and bolts of our internal technology.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that.
So it's been, you know, you asked a really hard question to answer. You know, what's been going on there?
Well, the developing internal, you know, multidimensional tech. I used this last night. You know, we have entered the age of cosmic reindeer games, boys and girls. We graduated. We've got the keys to our car. And now it's time to practice all those things, the telepathy, the allowance, the intention. I listened to, once I never watched Oprah, but one time I watched a rerun of Barbra Streisand on Oprah, and she said, you know, she's got enough money, right? And she does things like outside of the windows of her rooms at her house, the gardens outside the windows, the flowers in the gardens match the color of those rooms. I'm going, what a good idea. So if there's a pink room, there are pink flowers, and if there's a yellow room, yellow flowers, right? So she was in one room where she was having all new mums brought in, and they were supposed to be, you know, they were delivered, and the landscaping people put them all out there in front of the window, and she was looking at them, and she went, wait a minute, no, they're all the wrong color. My intention was for them to be all pink. And she didn't say anything. She went away, you know, and the next morning she wakes up and they are all pink. The flowers had turned pink. Nobody came and changed them. Now, she's a really good friend of Deepak Chopra. She's kind of got his hotline. She calls him up. You know how she talks. She goes, Deepak! I ordered the flowers, and the flowers came in the wrong color, and I didn't do anything. I wasn't going to do anything about it, but when I came out the next day, the flowers were the right color. And he said, why are you so amazed? She said, because this is amazing. And he goes, no, this was your intention. Why are you so amazed when the cosmos delivers? And I thought, oh, I almost fell off my chair. How awesome. What a great answer. It's like, stop being amazed that you are who you are, and let's get on with the games, you know? So I talked to a friend of mine yesterday. It really is. It's a great story, you know? And so you guys are having your project over there, and everybody is kind of really starting to look around at what, from what I've been seeing in the reflective reality that I'm looking in, far and wide, over the wires, you know, and around myself as well. And I'm seeing that people are trying to find a happy niche. They're trying to get themselves into a more joyful, more harmonious groove. And it's making them stop and think, what is that pebble in my shoe? I feel a pain every time I step this way. So I'm actually watching a lot of releasing going on. I think that, you know, the arguments of rebuttal and resistance, like some of the letters that Brian got, for instance, you know, these are just part of the process of, you know, challenging the truth of it. You know, they used to say marijuana was a bad thing. They used to, really, I mean, think of all the things they used to say were bad things, and now that we found are absolutely wonderful for all existence. So,
one of the songs that play on the radio here all the time is "Everything That Kills Me Makes Me Feel Alive." Well, that's what we've kind of discovered, you know, in our everything they told us was bad was actually good.
Right. So, you know, people are actually starting to say, now, whoa, wait a minute. If they're trying to sell me something with fear, it probably means I don't need this product, whatever that is. Be that a new budget, you know, a new medicine, a new whatever. Pick your arena, pick your favorite, you know, fight, you know, and individually within a holodeck, individual holodecks of experience in the time reality, you know, you can choose the color. You really can choose how you want to ride your ride, how you want to learn your lessons. So you don't have to go, again, you know, that choice between feels good and feels bad. It doesn't have to be between life and death. Again, it's like chocolate or chocolate ice cream or vanilla ice cream, or chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry, please. You know, it doesn't have to be hard. So Julien says we have a caller, but I don't know how to let him in.
Yes, we do. We do. Area code 319.
Hi there, this is Laurie in Iowa.
Hi, Laurie in Iowa.
Hello. What was your first name again? I didn't catch it. Laurie?
Laurie.
Ah, Laurie. Nice to hear from you, Laurie.
Bob, I met you in Sedona.
Okay. Which Laurie are you? Because I met...
I know there were a lot of people there, but I was the one. You had just done your workshop, and you were in the vehicle going back to the campsite, and I ran out and I gave you a big hug, and I also gave Lisa that little bag of Visa crystals.
Yes. Okay. I remember you.
And we also got a chance to spend an hour at your campsite.
Yeah, I remember. It was wasn't the park. It did kind of look like a parking lot. Yeah. It kind of did look like a parking lot. But yes, and you're in in Idaho now.
I am in Iowa. Mhm.
Ah.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been meaning to call for the longest time because I've been following you guys and love Julien and you, Bob, and Lisa. And what I've done is I started going back and listening to the original Collective Imagination shows and listening to Heather and all that. And, you know, I kind of jumped into this OPPT thing in the middle, so it's fascinating to look back to see where this all started and how it's turning out. So, yeah, it's really pretty cool.
Well, I'm back, so thank you.
Oh, hey, Julien.
You know, it seems almost like, I mean, Sedona was only a few months ago, but It seems like forever ago. You know,
yeah, well,
so
a lot's
much
happened since
has happened.
then.
Yeah, so much has happened between Sedona and here.
Well, you guys
And
were kind of talking about...
Thanks.
Oh, I'm sorry, Laurie. Go ahead.
No worries.
There's a slight delay, so
a delay.
we'll yeah.
Anyway, I wanted to ask about this and share something really very exciting, and that is that my husband and I, Richard, I think you might have met Richard, you met him at the campsite, Bob. I don't know if you remember him, but anyway, we started to share dreams. And the really cool thing is that my mom, who is very, very asleep, I talked to her just a couple of days ago, and she mentioned a dream, and she says, I had this one dream with you and Richard, and it was kind of strange, and she mentioned a situation, and I remember my husband telling me about that dream just a few days earlier. So my mom and my husband shared a dream together, and I was there as well.
There's so many reasons why people find themselves in each other's dreams. Could you talk a little bit about what the dream was like? Would you mind sharing a little bit of what
Not at all. And
content of it?
Yeah, sure. And it was pretty mundane. We were together, all the three of us, and we were having salad, and my mom didn't want any salad. And it wasn't a normal thing because, first of all, my mom never talks about dreams. And so that was really unusual that she remembered this dream that my husband remembered as well.
Mm-hmm. So you're seeing a synchronicity here that really surprises you.
Well, yeah, and the reason I've been paying attention to dreams was I've also been listening to Andrew Bartzis, where he was talking about how people are going to start sharing dreams, and they're going to start realizing that, and that's going to be a sign of this is all starting to coalesce. This unity consciousness is starting to coalesce.
I'd like to talk about unity consciousness a little bit. That's a really good dive in because we could use your example as a reference point. So we're all sharing collective consciousness. We're all one mind, right? We all are aware that we're all sharing a fundamentally broader consciousness that is all one being. And we are sort of shaped and into personalities, into individual ego identities by, being each a physical human. But we're all interlinked at a quantum level. And we're all intermixing and affecting each other succinctly and infinitely and invisibly. We don't really see a lot of these things because of the aspect of time. We don't identify how much we're affecting each other. We forget that a thought that we had the day before actually resulted in today us experiencing what we've attracted the day before. That's the aspect of time. Now, time is taking on new meaning. Time is getting out of the way so that we can see and we can remember how these things are always occurring. It's not that you weren't dreaming before, but the synchronicity of her sharing that for the first time is what's unique. And so that aspect, which is like this form of intelligence that runs the aspect of time, is taking a step back, is taking a position of more of a back seat to the reality that we're into now. We've entered into a space where time doesn't exist like it once did. And so a lot of weird stuff is going to come up. And that collective dreaming experience, that's a side result. That's a side effect of what occurs. Now, the only way that time really actually begins to dissipate and lose its significance or its entanglement of importance on our lives is when we begin to raise the consciousness, which means we, as a collective, and 100th Monkey or whatever, begin to resonate at a greater level of sovereignty of a kind of awareness that we are all one, so that we'll begin to experience how we're all one. It's like evidential proof that we're all one, because now we're in the perspective of, hey, that interests me now. I'd like to know more about that. And so as you broaden your consciousness, you're integrating more information about how we're all connected, and you'll see evidence of that. It's not that we weren't already. It's just now you're given support data to realize that that's the case. Now, I wanted to address the actual group dreaming specific notion that Andrew has brought forward. You don't have to know much about it if you haven't already heard about it. It's mostly about how we will get to a point where everyone will be having, when they go to sleep, very common dreams between each other. It'll be a shared dream, and there'll be a point at which everyone is having practically the same dream. The purpose for this, you have to understand, is to understand what dreams are in the first place. Okay? Right. So dreams are a physical realm. They're less physical than ours right now. They have less energy density. Okay? They are a physical place. They're real things happening. Just from where we stand and how we live such a very solid life, we tend to not think it's that important. Okay? But it is a dimensional space at different levels of energy density. Some are lighter, some are denser, some feel very real, and some of them are very strange and psychedelic. But they all are experiential realms, just like we are an experiential realm, no different. The difference here is that as we broaden our perspective and we get to understand the world that we're in right now, what happens is we begin to accept that we are living in an illusion, that we're living in a perceptible realm, a realm of our own perceptions and therefore of our own choice. When that happens more and more, we get to a point where the illusion of this world becomes as fluidic and strange and psychedelic as our dreams are. That's how we enter into the unity dream, because we get to a point where we have basically stepped out of a matrix reality, understood it was a matrix, and now we're all co-creating the next tier of existence, kind of like a whole new world in and of itself. If that makes sense, that dream world will begin to have more substance, and as a community, it will become more dense. The reason why we have dreams and why we take breaks to have dreams between our waking moments is because that is a planning space. Those worlds inadvertently affect our world here. Or not inadvertently, very advertently. That's such a thing. They affect our creations here. The plan of life and consciousness is very much a form of taking potential energy and manifesting into more physical experience, more physical energy. It's about energy coalescing and uncoalescing. So what happens here is that our dream realm is coalescing more succinctly, because we are going to take our broader perspective, which includes the dream world and higher realm and lighter frequency and lighter density world. We're including that more in our day-to-day life. So it's as if we're merging with our dream reality. When we exist in a place where our imaginations are taken more seriously and we learn to work with it more intently for our own personal benefit. So the collective dream is essentially that second world that we have together, that we've always had together, but we recognize how much we get to co-create. We don't know right now how much we co-create until we get to points where I've gotten to where I can see energy transfers between people that they don't even know it's occurring. Okay? So when you get to a point where you at least feel that, you don't have to see it the way I do. When you feel that, which is a high empathy state of existence, then we will collectively accept one another for who they are and integrate and have experiences of each other's dream reality as physical reality just in the way that we wish. And we will not be able to usurp other people's free will, because their free will be a part that we will empathize with, and we will not want to do anything other than what we truly feel that other person will enjoy with regards to our interaction with them. So the mass dream experience already exists. It's just gaining more density. Just as this world that has so much density is shifting to have less control over its density. The more that we release our limitations of beliefs, the more that we reduce this control that others have had over us, that is letting loose massive amounts of potential energy to become more fluid and take on new forms and new experiences. The more that we release, the more our dreams have greater physical meaning. That was a bit of a tirade, but I hope it made sense.
Well, that's very cool. It made sense to me, and also to support what you're saying, too, is that this doesn't happen very often, but of course I'm starting to dream in color, and I notice that more and more. But the other thing is now I'm starting to actually feel things in my dreams. And
wait
is that
until
like a precursor
Laurie. Wait until you wake up and some of the dream items are in your physical room.
Yep.
Oh, okay. So is this a precursor to becoming a lucid dreamer?
Yes, lucid dreaming. That is essentially what we're becoming. Except the difference is we're becoming lucid dreaming of our awake state here. We're gaining more mastery over our awake state here. Just like you need to get yourself into a state of awareness of what you're in when you're lucid dreaming so that you have more fundamental control. That's what people are doing here. That's what people are doing in this awake density we're in right now. That is the point. That's also what Michael Monk is talking about when he's talking about energy mastery. He's going about it in a very deliberate, practiced way. I did the same thing, and I saw the benefit in that process because that is how it's happening anyway. You don't have to take his course. You don't have to practice what he's doing. It's happening anyways. That's just for those who want to do it a bit more of a roller coaster format.
Yeah, I actually just signed up for his course, and that's
proven
to be very helpful.
Yeah.
And let me ask you, Julien, can I ask you another question?
I'm right here. Go for it.
Well, I in August of 2012, I went to a workshop called Awakening the Illuminated Heart. It was created by Drembolo Melchizedek.
Okay,
and in this workshop, I actually had some kind of an activation so that when I close my eyes, I see an eye, a swirl of energy. And I can see it with my eyes open. And this energy, if I watch it, it turns colors. And I've started to see the energy more and more. And I've been told that it's a data port, that it's my access to the information of all that is, to the library. And it's called the Eye of God. And I wanted to get your take on what that is.
And that is a portal to your higher self. It's that simple. That has greater access to the information that your broader part of you, your broader version of your ego does have multiple levels. The broader part of you as your identity has access to more information. At first, it can be so psychedelic it doesn't make sense. But as you continue to observe it, the patterns will begin to make sense. Much like a baby opening its eyes for the first time, it doesn't know what the shapes and colors are, but they'll take more form, and you can follow the guidance of your imagination to help you with the symbolic information that comes through. It's going to be symbolic imagery. That's where it starts.
Okay.
Symbolism has more meaning behind it, behind what a single image, a single image has, an image can be worth 1,000 words. That's really what it's about, that you can get imagery and that will develop. That's what a lot of people who are psychic are doing. When they're psychic, they're accessing the symbolic information. They've validated it on multiple occasions, so they trust it. So when this occurs for you and that portal, that's an example of that psychedelicness of information trying to find a way into the root structure of your mind so that you can understand it. It's weird, and you'll note not everybody has that experience. It's weird because you're choosing to do that at an accelerated rate. So you're basically deciding to open up your third eye before you even realize that that's what you're doing.
Right.
So
right. It's been interesting. I mean, when I go to sleep, whether it's napping or sleeping at night, a lot of times it'll turn on and the energy and the colors, and then I will see these amazingly vivid faces, patterns, really incredible with depth. Like I could reach out and just touch it. It's so sharp.
Yes, I think you're gonna like some of the exercises and talks that Michael does in his course, because he gets right into that stuff, and you'll gain a lot of comfort from that. Especially when you get to actually do things like touch it and actually cause it to have a reaction. Yes. It's part of energetic sight. I went through a stage of that. I almost have forgotten what that was like at the beginning. But it mostly came down to developing trust in it.
Okay.
Yeah. It's cool. I've never actually had a real psychedelic experience from any substances. I seem to be banned from experiencing them. Not for lack of trying, but everything that I've gone through has had explanations from people who have had psychedelic experiences. Oh, okay. I guess I'm just having it the organic way.
Well, it's probably better because then you don't have to rely on the drugs, right?
I guess so. I guess part of me wanted it to happen that way. But that's very cool. That for me denotes a lot of very exciting progress, especially when you begin to work with it. And yes, imagery, you have to. Everybody has imagination, but nobody takes it seriously. I'm not going to say nobody. A lot of people here, they're
starting
up for that.
to. They're starting to realize what it really is. It's an imaging system. It's not,
It is.
Yeah.
And at the same time, when you want to understand it, it does come down to a trust format, because a lot of people are not personally self-empowered. Like, they don't believe that they could have the information, and so there's no reference to say that it's important or not. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. It's as if, why would I know this, or why should I care about this? It doesn't seem to make any sense, but it's just symbology. If you take it similar to how dreams can be analyzed through their symbolic properties, that has all the information you need. It really puts things into context when you're able to understand what symbolic elements in a dream or visions, what they mean fundamentally, because the way that I see into the matrix energy, it's all patterns. A pattern is a collection of vibrations that comes into something that you can call symbolic. So when I see like a horse, okay, I'm not thinking, oh, I'm going to get a pony. That's not what I'm thinking. When I see a horse, I see the attributes that come with a horse. The energetic pattern that manifested into density became a horse. So each animal is literally like a stereotype pattern.
But wouldn't you say that was true, Julien, about everything in the visual reality? That there are symbolic there are symbolic representations in everything in your reflective reality.
Yeah.
So I use numbers. There are people who use all kinds of different helper language systems to translate the symbologies, but looking in your environment for anything, a dragonfly that hangs around you for hours and hours, keep it simple, and trust. Again, he's right, trusting.
Yeah.
So, when you hear something or you see something and it catches your attention, that there's some information there. With the internet, you can run into the house and, Google dragonfly.
Yeah.
So
there is collective understanding of patterns, and that's why we all see a dragonfly and not something else. That's why we can all accept that pattern for what it is. All right?
Representation.
Yeah. And part of the pattern is basically identifying it for its energetic meaning. You don't have to know the energetic meaning to everything. It's just very interesting once you do, and taking a moment to see what its energetic meaning is, to see what has entered into your life, because everything that you can observe is telling you something about you. You have it there because it's sort of like a synchronistic key-in to talking about yourself. It's like another opportunity of looking into a mirror.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So when I say horse,
it's a very different way of experiencing your reality. When you start to shift that to that perception, it's a very different way of experiencing reality, because you'll find that the universe is constantly communicating with you.
Yes.
Yeah.
In ways that in ways that are meaningless to other people, but have terrible significance to you. I don't mean terrible but immediate and profound significance to yourself. And whether it just be, the sound of a bird outside the window, or the appearance of a dragonfly, at the appropriate moment, it has significant meaning and a message for you.
Mm-hmm.
This awareness, and the more...
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
just let me finish. The more that you focus, the more that you're aware of it, and the more that you focus on it, the quicker the messages come, and the more you have much more occasion to notice it.
Yeah. One of the big things that I got out of the last 6 months of my life that I almost couldn't believe, but it's been hammered into me left and right, is everything is significant. Everything can be significant if you choose to focus on it. Of course, there's way too much data for us to just spend all day observing everything and just taking it in. It's all significant contextually to what you're up to. So you don't notice everything in your room. You don't notice all the people that you've ever met in your life at any particular moment in time. You're not aware of tons of information. But in the moment, what happens to be in front of you in context, that has data for you if you take the time, which helps you. Really sort of like, it's like doing tarot all day. All the symbolic tarot cards have a lot of information, and all those symbolic patterns are in everything around us too.
Trusting yourself is really the most important thing of all of this. I mean, when you see something, be relaxed and accept it. Make a note of it. And I think that the amazement is one thing, but the not trusting it is really where most of us step on our own shoelaces. Yeah.
And that's a big part of the old world programming, is to get you to stop believing that you're the source of existence. It's meant to try to convince you that everything is on the outside coming to you. And that's true. Everything is coming to you, but in effect, you're the attractor of it. You're the other side of the equation. You're the other polarity of the magnetism. It doesn't come to you unless there's actually both a push and a pull of the direction of magnetism.
And that's only for manifestation in a time reality.
Oh, right. Well, time reality is important to that.
You know that it's if you're looking, and we looked for outer manifestations to prove our worthiness, to prove our aliveness, our existence, and so retracting that focus back internally towards self and observation is a wonderful practice. It's a full-time job. It's not even just practice, it's a full-time job. And then from there, as you're noticing what you're wanting to notice, as you're trusting in your dreams and you're trusting your gut, when you're seeing your specialized symbols, your specialized information coming right to you from you, when you start trusting that, that's when it gets really easy and the bumps go away. The big bumps go away. Your life experience smooths out and becomes peaceful.
This is what we call following the energetic trail.
Ah, yeah.
Paying attention to those symbols, paying attention to the messages, and adhering to them, because you're constantly guiding yourself through life. Julien talked about how we use our dreams as a planning platform, and that's that is so relevant right now, because all of us, all 7.8 billion of us, have been doing that together. We've been planning out collectively what it is that we want to experience for our collective next moment. And this is, we've been getting similar dreams, and some of them we share on the air. I had a dream, about flying around in colored bubbles of light, around the earth, being called rainbow warriors, and at the same time, a friend of ours called, completely unsolicited, told us about her dream where we were flying around in bubbled colored of light, and everybody was calling us the Skittles. And these similar themes appearing all over the people dreaming, these are what we're planning for our collective next experience. People are and you see it in pop culture, the movies and the some of the TV shows that are coming out. TV shows like Heroes and The Tomorrow People and all of Fringe. All of these ideas are really coalescing in the collective consciousness for a reason. And our future is going to be a lot more interactive with our reality, because once you reach that sense of perception, your reality just becomes an extension of yourself.
It already is.
Think about,
Isn't it already?
It already is.
It already is.
But once you're consciously aware of it, and your reality becomes an extension of yourself, then picking up a glass across the room is like scratching your head.
Right. So that when the phase of amazement goes away, you're really jiggy with it. You're trusting it. So it sounds, Laurie, it sounds like you got your nose on the energetic trail, and it sounds like you're watching all of your cues, and you're taking your existence and your perception and your experience seriously, as if your reality depends on it, and that's a fact. So it's right.
One of the things that my higher being keeps explaining to me, why this process is occurring, and I just keep shelving it. I'm like, yeah, it's the precession of the equinox. No, fine. I'm like, yeah, do you know why the precession of the equinox is happening? Why you're here for the precession of the equinox? Why? It's a big deal. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, I thought everything's a big deal. all the other periods in time, they're all big deals. Like, yes, yes, yes. But why are you only remembering Julien Wells here right now? Why is this the point that matters so much? And it was really weird because I was kind of like slapped around a bit with it, synchronistically, like, hey, you know, you're shelving the question, but it's really going to help if you take a minute to hear the answer. And it really came down to, well, in fewer words, that this world is becoming plastic. There has been a lot of structure set up so that you can sort of like build on top of the structure. It's like building the foundation. So there's a lot of foundational experiences that came up, and foundations for our society, foundations for relationships, foundations for all sorts of things. And now, unlike the foundation phase, now we get to basically build whatever we want on the foundation. Now we build the home and reality that we've always wanted on top of that. It's as if the American dream was a joke compared to what we're about to face. Like, quite literally. The American dream is playing into the concept that we get to live dreams, except it's no longer American. Now it's the universal dream. And that's what we're entering into. I'd like to call it that, and that's what my higher being wants to call it. And I said, well, okay, that's cool. So wait, how does that tie into right now again? And I said, well, you've never really been in a position until now. You had to basically, you know, come here because this is the best part. This is where Imagineering is at its crux of the most impact. Because once you start Imagineering, you're actually creating more, you're creating it more limited again. You're actually creating limitations once again, right? So the idea is to soften up the foundation into sort of like a putty, and then you can build on top of that. So it's almost like
that phrase is pretty much sums up what it is that we're doing here, Imagineering.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're still going through the programming, the deprogramming phases. You know, we're still learning who we really are. But when you get to a degree of realization of who you really are, you just start getting excited for who you really are can really do. You know, you start playing with it, and it's not because you're meant to go into the point of infinity and become, you know, just the point of light of, oh, everything is one. No, you can do that if you want to, and that seems a bit more like ascension than I'm willing to do. But I have a lot of things here now that I have to work with, to play with, a lot of substance that I get to enjoy now. But I'm sure there are people who do want to basically go into the complete unity consciousness and not interested in taking any action besides realizing broader and more broader. That's allowed, and that's totally like, you know, for some people. But in my case, I'm here to play with what we've already established and take it to the next level. That's what's fun for me.
Well, that's the whole idea of heaven and earth merging.
Yeah.
You know, it's a lot of people. Well, I woke up this morning and everything's still the same. Well, that's because you're still in the same perception. You know, nothing. Everything is changing. Everything is changing, and you know, we were just recounting some stories that, like, in the past would have been inexplicable, but now is just kind of a matter of course. When we first came to Morocco the first time last June, one of the girls, Kim Hackstrom, who had never been to Morocco before, right? Well, she lost one of her socks at home. Well, that lost sock ended up in Heather's bedroom.
Okay.
A place that she had never been, never visited, right? But there it was. What does now? Did the sock decide, that it was going to take a trip without her, into Heather's bedroom, or perhaps, and this is one of the things that we've been talking about. We've been teleporting a lot lately. All of us have been doing it, and we're collectively, or we're individually and collectively choosing not to remember the experience, because knowledge of it would take us so far out of our reality that it would be unacceptable for us. But this stuff is really happening. And the reason why it's come into our awareness is because we're prepared to accept that as part of our reality. What are you willing to accept in your reality? A lot of people's like, I would love to see some of my dead loved ones. Yet, a lot of times when they do appear, you freak the hell out.
Even Ouija boards freak people out. They're like, come on, this is legit.
Freak people out. And that in itself is an intention and a creation. That freaked me out. And so a lot of it is how much are you prepared to accept into your reality? And how much responsibility, are you willing to take for each and every creation that you're creating? Well,
that's a big key. That's the key. Is taking that responsibility for what you're creating, and you actually get freed up and you give yourself permission to dream again, and to follow your dreams, and to let them manifest in front of you. But taking that responsibility is the bottom line. Am I going to take responsibility to be present all day today, to relax, to trust? Am I going to take responsibility to have joy time, to look in the direction of joy? I don't have time. I don't have time. I'm busy. I got to make money. I got to do this. I got to pay my bills. I have to worry about my bills. That takes time, It takes time. It sucks all the energy out of me. So, so all these excuses for why we can't stay present right now and milk that golden position of manifestation right there for as long as we can. Learning to trust yourself, learning to trust that you are in a reality that no matter what it looks like, the hard contrasts are there to show you what your preferences are. You don't have to choose the hard-edged preferences anymore of pain and sorrow versus joy and giddiness. You can choose the middle path. You can choose a path of acceptance in the beginning, and then, gently glide in the direction of your joy. Yeah. So, but you must, I'm sorry, you have to take responsibility for what you're thinking about yourself and your reality. If you don't, it's never going to change. It's never going to change. Or you'll still continue to get like little smatterings here and there that keep you on the edge of amazement, but never committed, but never taking responsibility, really. So, if there's joy in those omens that are coming to you, if you're starting to build your juju up really well, so that you know who you are, fly with that. Fly with it in your dreams if you have to. But, you can also ask to come back and have some memory of that so that you can integrate it into your waking day, into the lower frequency, until you allow yourself to release the lower frequencies of time and the realities that are attached to those, and those are your belief systems, and free yourself up into the higher frequency realities of manifestation and cosmic reindeer games. Friends.
Julien?
Yeah.
Hey, Julien. Hey, one of the other things I wanted to talk about, if you don't have any other callers,
Not so much.
That is time.
Wait, what's that?
Sorry?
Can you repeat it?
Sure. I wanted to ask about time and time loops, because I've been experiencing time loops for the past year or so, but really what's happening lately is almost every week, if not even more frequently than that, I'll listen to something or I'll watch something, or someone will tell me something, and I remember either watching this before, listening to this before, or hearing this before.
It's well, there's an easy word for it. It's called deja vu, and almost nobody seems to understand what it is. But I've had a talk with Michael about it and Peter Shelton at the time, and we came up with a really good definition, I feel. What you're actually going through your timelines. Okay, so what happens when you have timelines is at any point in time you can make a decision, but it's kind of like a 50-50, and you're like, oh, I guess I'm like 51% this way and like 49% this way, but a part of you still wants to journey down the 49% path. So a part of you does, a very significant part of you. So if there's ever something that's kind of like a 50-50 chance, you can believe that a very significant part of you has gone and journeyed down the other version, has made a split. If something's like 99% likely to happen over 1%, with only like 1% of your consciousness is dividing into a timeline as thin as only 1% energetically. Now what happens is oftentimes a lot of these come to the same conclusion. So say 3 weeks ago you had a dividing opportunity to go down this path and down this path. What happens is that your parallel timeline existence is doing its thing, and it actually comes back and merges with yours. Now, that's what gets people really confused. They're like, what do you mean, timelines? I thought it only expands in potential. But actually, there's these merging of timelines that come back together. And what happens in that case is sometimes it comes with a few fresh memories that you seem to recall of having done, but as actually another part of your timeline already did it. Okay, so a part of you already did it already, and you're just sort of like, hey, that's interesting that just came to my mind, because a part of your other timeline was rejoining you. Okay, because there's no... So, yeah, because what happens, if you want to look at it this way, here's another way to interpret it. It's going to be a little... I'm going to do my best. I like this analogy. If you're a star floating through the galaxy, okay, and your influence is as far as you're able to be observed within the galaxy, and you're floating and you're traveling in a general direction as the galaxy has a predictable form of movement, and you're going through experiences, you're going through empty space, and you're going through constellations and whatnot, and you're experiencing all the different constellations, and that's your experience. But depending on sort of like the way that you're going, you may decide to sort of like, you're journeying, but you're looking off to your left in this instance, and in this instance, you're looking off to your right. So you've sort of like got like bifocal vision, and so you're observing the constellations off to your right in one hand, and you're observing the constellations to your left on the other hand, but you're still in the middle. You're still that point observing both. Okay, so you actually get to experience, you know, your observation of intention off to one constellation and to the other at the same time. But what happens is that when you're kind of done with that, your focus returns to where you're headed directly in front of you. Okay, so when your eyes go from bifocal to single vision, that's kind of like what it's like for timelines to reemerge, because now you have more focused, intentional energy directly in front of you. So you're still a single star traveling. You're still a single sun traveling. Just your focus has been returned to a more central perspective. So you're constantly, you know, if you can imagine the sun as like a billion rays of light going out in all directions, it's paying attention to all sorts of things. But sometimes it returns that focus so that focus has more oomph behind it, more energy behind more singular perspectives. If that makes sense. Hopefully that works. I know it's hard, but it's all kind of in my head and I'm trying to describe it.
No, so, that was really an interesting way to describe that. And what's really strange, too, and the reason that I didn't see it and recognize it as a deja vu is that in the past, when I had a deja vu, you get that woozy feeling, like weird feeling. And in the last year and a half, that weird feeling isn't there anymore to say, oh, that was a deja vu. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, actually, this is what my heart being saying right now. One of the reasons why it's a little wiggy is that those timelines, okay, so you're always seeking your highest joy one way or another, but the other timelines can go through kind of crap scenarios, just like your more dominant timeline. What you're observing right now is always your more dominant timeline, your 51% of everything. But these other ones go through sort of like crummy scenarios sometimes, and although it had a good journey, it still decides that in overall it's worth rejoining and not forgetting about that timeline. So you reemerge and you get the deja vu, but sometimes it comes with a couple little karmas you might have made in the past. So it comes with a little bit of discomforts that come in there too. And so at that deja vu feeling, it has that sort of like, I made some progress, at least 51% by reemerging, but maybe some not so fun progress at the same time. But nowadays, it's much less that way for most people. You know, that's what my sense is. So yeah, when you follow different timelines, of course, there's a large gamut of experiences that go through them. And so, yeah, you're kind of sort of like pulling in some of the things that, you know, are a little bit uncomfortable to digest.
A lot of people are experiencing a lot of this right now because a lot of previous potential timelines are collapsing, and
yeah,
a lot of them are collapsing because of the shift in consciousness. So a lot of things that were possibilities that could have happened are now literally collapsing, you know, onto this timeline. And a lot of people will experience flashes of some of those alternate timelines.
Those things that might have happened, yeah. But they did happen.
Yeah, they did happen, but they're almost like echoes in your awareness.
Yeah, when you get closer to experiencing lucid dream, you start to face the conundrum of time within that, because sometimes what'll happen is you'll be like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm lucid dreaming. I'm gonna invent myself like a lightsaber, and I'm just going to go around chopping stuff up because I've always wanted to do that. Okay, and you're like, yeah, lucid dream and do whatever you want in there. Well, sometimes you get this pullback where you start over, like you hit the rewind button, and you go right back to a point where you just got the lightsaber. Like, oh, well, I guess, okay, that was fun. I'm going to go hack away with some things with the lightsaber again. And then it pulls you back, kind of like Groundhog Day, in fact. Very similar to Groundhog Day. Yeah, but you realize what the other days were like. So you remember what you've already done. And you're like, wait a second. Why am I repeating this? And you start to figure out that, okay, higher being says, go ahead and have some fun with that lightsaber. But I have actually placed you into this time vortex loop because I want you to actually pick up something useful that I'm hoping you're going to eventually pick up. I'm only going to let you go so far with it. So that occurs a lot of the time in the lucid realm. And at the same time, we face a lot of similar experiences here with the timeline divisions that we experience. But really, you don't have to worry about it. You're on your dominant timeline at all points, which is the accumulation of all your efforts in many different ways. You know, don't feel afraid to consider alternatives that you don't take. Know that a part of you is exploring that and what that was. And you know that parallel version of yourself will come back around when it's done swinging its lightsaber around. When it's done with that experience.
Well, thank you so much, you guys. This has been such a joy, and it's been a blast to talk to y'all.
Well, thanks for joining us. And we have another caller. Should we bring them on?
Yes, let's.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Unmuting area code 303. Hello?
Hi there. I hardly ever miss one of these blog talks. I always like to call in. I just want to say that when I was like a really little kid, and I remember we would go to family functions and we'd go into a strange house I'd never been in, and I'd get this like horrible feeling because I said, I'm going to hear from the next room this phrase any second, and it always would happen. And it would just freak me out because I could never tell anybody about any of this stuff that used to happen to me constantly. And to this day, it's still, I mean, it really was, it happened constantly. Just constantly. I'd always know what people were getting ready to say, who was going to talk, be in a completely strange house, you know, and just know the next sentence, and it would just like chill me to the bone that this kept happening to me. And I try to talk to people about it, try to find out if anybody had ever had any of those experiences. I never could find anybody who did. I was like late teenager before I even heard about deja vu, and I'm thinking, oh, frick. You know, I was practically born doing deja vu. In fact, I remember my birth, totally remember every part of it, coming out into the light and everything and seeing everybody there with their white thing over their face. I remember all of that crap. And in a way, it's okay, but it's not okay if you're the only one who does remember all that stuff. See what I'm saying?
Well, there's a lot of good things there that I want to talk about.
Okay, good. But you don't want to talk about it?
We'll go off the bigger picture here.
Okay.
And what's your name, actually?
My name is Burnell.
Oh, Burnell. Thank you.
Uh-huh. You're welcome.
Just wanted to remember who we were talking about. So bigger picture, what I'm seeing here is that you have a lot of Akashic balancing skills that you may not be aware of. And by balancing skills, I mean that you have greater access to information to weigh the significance of the lessons in the moment, and or generally the energy of the moment. Sometimes it's not lessons, it's just observing what the energy was. People who have good memories tend to be among those types of people, but in particular, the bouncing around of time, in your case, has a lot of use for helping people deprogramming this reality by getting them to explore how it doesn't have to be as concrete and linear as we make it out all to be. So there's a lot of usefulness in that skill or that type of attribute. And oftentimes people are waking up because they have sort of weird things about them they notice that no one else has, and they focus in on that, and that's sort of like one of the keys they're given to make sure that they wake up, because they've got to make sense of it, and so they go exploring on their path.
Yes. The other thing is I totally believe, and have believed for a long, long time, that a whole bundle of us and everyone on the planet is here right now for this time event that we're going through. And I was talking to somebody the other day about being in the Patriot movement, flying a helicopter with Bo Gritz and doing all this, you know, preparedness and getting food storage ready. And they said, what about the apocalypse? And I said, it's not happening anymore. We managed to make it to the fifth dimension, and things like that can't happen anymore. That was for then. That was preparation for then. But because of the harmonic convergence in 87, when so many people got together and spiritually worked on something that probably no one knew what they were working on, but we all did it at the same time, apparently sent a flash out to the universe that we were ready to begin this work. And that was 25 years ago, exactly when you see where it was in relation to 2012. Is that very cool?
That is really cool. No,
that is really cool.
I like how that ties in.
Do you remember the harmonic convergence, or you're too young?
I was
87.
Young, but
were you born?
Yes, I was. I was born in 78.
Okay.
And I remember a couple, let's just say, dramatic moments in my life where I didn't realize how much significance I had on my surroundings until that point. I had a really high level of dissonance with my brothers, and I have 6 brothers. And so around that time, I made new commitments to not writing them off so much, and to actually take into account and develop my state of empathy for them. I
think we kind of do that on a daily basis even to this day, don't we? Aren't we always doing that? We start out in judgment and end up doing empathy, and then things are smooth again. And for us more than for the person that we're angry at who hasn't even got a clue that we are, right?
Yeah, that's right. And that was actually what I meant, is that was when that's succinctly when it first started happening. I judged myself as a selfish little boy before that point. And I didn't, I basically said I'm out for me and myself up to that point. And I was, I could have been perceived as kind of crummy and manipulative and whatever, until I realized what my manipulations were doing, and began to actually accept that and really see, that following the heart and, being sort of like a good guy was the better way out. Because the bad guys kept getting spanked. I didn't want to get spanked anymore.
Well, the coolest thing is that I have a 6-year-old grandson, and I believe I have actually told him that I'm sure he's the reincarnation of my baby brother who was killed in a car accident, but he was very, very jealous of his baby sister and constantly squishing her shoulders and hurting her very subtly that nobody would know about. And I kind of took him over in the corner and gave him a little lecture. And yesterday I went to the school to the Valentine's party, and he had written her the most amazing Valentine. And I was just blown away because I thought, this little kid, from the time I talked to him, which was a few weeks ago, until now, he's been mulling it over in his mind. 2 weeks ago, he didn't even know his alphabet, and he'd written her a card where he spelled the words, and on his own, because they weren't spelled right, but you could definitely understand what he said. But it was just like in total admiration of his sister. And then while everybody was sitting there making Valentines, he was making a Darth Vader mask for her and measuring the head and getting the strap on, everything made out of paper. And I just thought the compassion and joy that he was pouring forth on this little girl, which was like a 180-degree turn from a month ago, was just huge. He had come to that point of compassion and love where he realized how important it was, and there wasn't going to be anybody who stopped him from measuring her head and getting that mask on her right while the party was taking place. It was just mind-boggling. And I think I think you and I and all the highly evolved people, just by being in a room, kind of have that energy that the room changes and everybody begins to be different. Have you noticed?
Oh yeah.
Isn't it great?
And I love hanging out with you guys. That's what it comes down to.
Well, you know what? And the other thing is, I've always gone through my life feeling like I really didn't have sincere friends, and all of a sudden, I swear, since we've had this shift in energy, every place I go just feels like it's full of love. Every place, people just feel so. There's so much love and so much compassion now that I never saw 10 years ago. I don't know if it was here, but I certainly didn't see it. But isn't it great? This shift is just fabulous.
Yeah, and remember those listening to who maybe not seeing it so much as simply as we are. It's you that's the attractive factor for your existence. Everything you observe can't exist without you being the equal, balancing, attractive factor for its existence. So literally, you live within the surroundings of your comfort with yourself. Pretty much it. The more that you are in resonance with yourself, the more your outer surroundings are in resonance with you. It can't be any other way. There's no attracting what it's not. Now, there is still momentum. There is still momentum of what you have been attracting. So when people change very rapidly, they may not change every little detail of what they've changed, but they've changed their overall view of things, but they haven't actually integrated every little attractive factor that still remains, like the splinters of the past perceptions. So you still can have the experiences show up, but now that we've entered into this phase in the last several months, a lot of crap is easily flushed away now, much more easily flushed away. Only the really interesting bits for us to process are hanging around.
Well, I really enjoyed tonight's discussion. I'll get off the phone and let someone else call in. I thank you very much for letting me vent, and also, I mean, I'm just blown away that we started talking about deja vu. It's the first time I've ever spoken publicly about my little terrible experiences when I'm a little kid, and I haven't got a clue why I know the next word in the next room. It was awfully scary, and couldn't find anybody else who ever had it happen to them at such a young age.
Yeah, you'll find that some people, when they're younger, they have this sense of wanting to protect themselves by knowing what's going to come down, so they develop that skill to send out a version of them that skips over some stuff so that they can be in the future, having lived the future to give yourself information so that you're more comfortable with it. At the same time, it's just a protective measure that most people don't do.
Well, you know what? That makes total sense, because I spent a lot of years being afraid and a lot of years being, as the only child, the one that was always spanked the hardest. So maybe it's exactly what you were saying, that I was given a special protection so I could always kind of know what was coming. And I thank you. I'll unmute now.
And it becomes a skill that your higher being gets to using as a technique. We're down to our last 3 minutes. And I did want to thank you, Brunel, for joining us. So if we want to make some announcements, Bob, do you want to share whatever announcements you might have?
Just so some heads up, there are new documents that are on the way, and I've never seen Heather more excited about anything ever. She was sitting. As she was talking about it, she was sitting there. She's like, "Damn, these are good. They're bulletproof. Oh my God!" And she was just like, So stay tuned. Especially on the One People and a Collective Imagination show on Monday and Tuesday, respectively, and we will keep you informed as things unfold here. But.
I'm really loving this new internet line you got. It's wonderful.
Yeah, it was necessary. We had to make a little investment.
Well, very cool. I'm sorry I missed part of the beginning of the show, but if y'all want to hear me and Crystal tomorrow, we're going to be on the Revolution Ship show on Expanding You Network on Blog Talk Radio. That's at 5 o'clock. And either way, enjoy your next week. It's going to be a doozy. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, boy.
This full moon really set us up for some serious bowling going on coming up here. And if the full moon was interesting this time, I think, just ease into the aftermath if you can. Because I think this President's Day and Tuesday are going to be some very interesting energies showing up around the world, personally. And that has nothing to do with what you just said about what Heather's up to. But I think there's going to be some public stuff showing up. I don't know what, but I highly sense it. So about 30 seconds left here. Carmel, did you want to say something? Is she there? I think probably muted. Either way, thanks for today, and we'll see you again, same time, same place next week. And enjoy your President's Day off if you get it off.
Good night.